Okay, this is my 2002 T4 with central locking. Doesn't have remote central locking, just locks with the key. There's no electric windows or mirrors in this fan, so in the door loom, which comes through the bellows here, I've already removed it. I've just got 4 wires. These are your 4 wires that go to the actuator in here. The 2 front doors have a 4-pin plug, and the sliding door and the tailgate have a 3-pin plug. So once you get your door card off, if you want to test your actuators, take your door card off, unplug the loom, remove these 2 screws, and there'll also be a metal hook which goes to the pin down to here. You just want to unhook it. It just hooks on the top. So unhook that and you've got your actuator off. I've marked on here the 4 wires. This is a front. So it's a master. The 2 fronts are masters. The 2 3-pin ones are called slaves. So you got your brown, red, yellow, white. So 2 4-pins for the front doors, and the sliding door and the tailgate have a 3-pin. I've marked on there brown, yellow, white. They don't have a red, which is alive. They just have signal wires, which are these 2. So when the masters lock, they send a signal to the 2 3-pins to lock those as well. So sliding door and the tailgate, this is the plug they have, just a ground and 2 signals. And the 2 front doors, like I said, have the 4-pin plug. So first of all, to test the actuators, what I've done is hooked up cables to the battery, positive and negative. So the 4-pin ones, you want to put your negative onto the ground pin, and then if you test it on the yellow, you notice it goes in, a white it goes out, so that's a good actuator. In, out, you want to hold it on there until it finishes the cycle. You'll notice it comes in and then pops back out. If you stop halfway through, it won't go back down. So it goes out and sort of pops. So that means that actuator is good. That's on the 3-pin one, so I wrote good on that one. Oh, that's a 4-pin one, that was good. Same thing on the 3-pin. Put your negative to the ground. Yellow and white. You'll see that's working. So this is my other 4-pin one. Same thing, ground. So that also works. I've lost my pen, but that's good. Found my pen, so that is good. So I've got 2 good 4-pins. 3 pins good, so I just need a 3rd or 2nd good 3-pin. So this was a bad one which wasn't working, so I removed these 1, 2, 3, 4 screws, opened this up, and I found this inside. So this was all rusted out. There's another little wheel goes in there. So what they do is when they get a signal, the motor turns this wheel, this pin. One way will push this up until it slides off it. The other way will slide down this way and push it back. So this pin goes backwards and forwards, pushes that up and then back down again. So that's how that moves. So if this is all rusted up or you've got corrosion in here, you'll find that these aren't working. So best to buy a new one or get a good used one. If you take it apart, you might want to make sure when you put it back together you've got this seal all good, or else seal it with something, and then make sure that the bellow is pushed down over it just to stop water from getting in. That's what a bad one looks like, and I've showed you how to test for a good one. Just going to take off my tailgate actuator while I'm here, test it. So again, 2 screws here and here once you've got the cover off, and then the metal rod on this one goes into the catch up there. You can see that, so that just pulls out. It's got like a 90-degree hook on it, so it pulls out, that comes up here and onto the hook on the actuator. Screws are out. Just need to pull the hook out. Sorry, that was the wrong hook. The hook goes across here into this one. So if I pull that out, this actuator comes out there. I'll just go back to the front and test this. Okay, so same again. Negative onto the ground. Out. In. Out. In. So that one works. So I've got 2 good 4 pins, 2 good 3 pins, which is what I need for my van, which is 1 sliding door and a tailgate. If you've got barn doors and twin sliders, you'll obviously need more. So that's my 4 good ones. So next thing we need to do is check all the wiring for common faults such as broken wires in the bellows. So I'll show you. Okay, so this is what you'll find inside the door when you take it off. Again, if you've got electric windows and mirrors, you'll have more wires, but I don't, which is probably a good thing. So from your actuator, you got 4 wires go across here. Should be clipped up across here, clipped in here, and it goes inside here. If you don't know, this is called a bellow, which is basically the hinging point for the wiring loom. Quite often wires will be broken inside here. Mine were, so I still have to wrap this up, but I had some broken wires in here, so I've cut those, stripped them, soldered and heat shrink them. So from your driver's door, the loom goes through here into this plug, so that's from there to there. Then from this plug, that 4 wires continues across the dash to a similar plug on that corner, which then goes into that door. So the 2 doors basically join together. Between there is If you see those two red wires, they go to your central locking fuse, which is under this mess here. So on the bottom of your fuse box you've got this panel with 2 fuses. You might have more depending on your van. Number 10 is a 15 amp fuse. So that is the fuse from those 2 red wires there. Then also from this loom you've got these 2 ground wires which go to this common ground or bus bar, whatever you call it. So you've got 2 earths, your 2 lives to that fuse. So that's your driver's door, plugs in there, goes across to the other side. So this is the other end of that loom. This plugs in here, which is the same again in your passenger door. So you want to physically check all these wires, strip it off, check for any broken wires or bare wires, fix those up, and then so the other plug which comes out of that loom is a 3-pin plug which has a 2-pin plug plugged into it. So that goes up the driver's side A pillar and it runs the whole way down the back. So that's your yellow and white wire that runs down here. There's a short connection in here. I reckon that's the difference between a long wheelbase and short wheelbase. This is long wheelbase, so it has the connector. I think it's an extra 30 centimeters or whatever it is. So that plugs in there. Again, it's still just a yellow and white signal wire. Comes through this bellow, which you want to check as well. Down your door, across here. And those 2 wires come into this plug, which is just a short harness, and into your actuator. So the ground wire on this, because there's only the 2 wires comes down from the front, the ground wire goes back down here through that and then down into this, which is your locking latch. So the brown wire comes in here, a small one, and then back out of the latch. It comes back through the loom, back up here, and then the brown wire comes down here, and then it grounds onto here, which has a couple of grounds from the tail light. So it'll be the complete circuit from there. So we need to check all of these wires with the multimeter, the beep test or a continuity test. But first of all, I'll show you the sliding door loom. Okay, so we're back to the passenger side. Again, from your front actuator in here, this will be where the bellow is. I've got it removed because I still need to wrap all of these wires. I'm going to put some of this stuff on it, tidy it up, put the bellow back in. That's where it connects to across the dash to the front door. So then here you've got another 3-pin plug. This side has a 3-pin plug plugged into it. So that goes again up the A pillar, across, and down the B pillar into this. This is what bridges the connection between your loom and your door. So down here, this needs to be nice and clean and good. If you have one that looks like this, chances are you're going to need to clean it up or replace it. I had a spare van, so I took a good one off. Decided not to use this. So then the other side of this, you've got one of these. This one, as you can see, 2 pins are broke. The other pin doesn't look great. So that's not going to work because these need to, whenever you close your door, this is what joins the circuit into your actuator. So I had a good one. That's how a good one should look. 3 good pins which all move. So from there you got your 3-wire loom which plugs into your actuator, which on the sliding door screws on here with the same 2 screws. Then you got a pin which comes up and onto this, so that's your manual. So your actuator will be basically pulling this up and down, which locks the door. If you use the key, this turns and does that, which also does that. So you got 3 linkages all doing the same thing, which is locking the door. So that's basically all the wiring. Again, this fan doesn't have remote central locking, so remote might be slightly different, but that's the gist of it anyway. Okay, so if you want to check all of your wires individually for any breaks or damage, you want to do a continuity test. This is all new to me, by the way, so most multimeters should have that test. If you look on here, if I turn that to here, basically if you touch 2 ends of a wire, it should beep if they're good. So I've went ahead and tested every single wire from end to end, from plug to plug, to make sure everything's good. I'll just show you this section of loom here, how to do it. Don't need to unplug it, but it's just easier if I do it to show. So each wire from each end, there's the white wire. Hold pin on one end. We're getting a beep, which means that wire's not broken. Yellow wire. Good. Red wire. Good. Brown or ground wire is also good. So what I did was check that loom from end to end, then check this section that goes across the dash end to end, so from this female plug to the female on the other end. Then I did the driver's door loom the same as I just did that one. Then this plug here, which goes to the sliding door B pillar, I checked that. So each of those 3 wires, I checked that they are continuous to this. Then I checked that these pins are continuous from here to here. Then I closed the door and checked that these are continuous from here to the plug down there. Then I checked the 3-pin plug there is continuous from there along there to the first plug where it meets that little extension. And I checked each end of the extension. checked from the other end of the extension, from there to here. Checked they're all good. Then I checked from here to here. And because this ground cable goes to the tail light, I checked it from here down to where it screws onto the chassis in here. So once you've done all that, so physically check the wires, then check them with a multimeter. If everything's continuous, when the sliding door is closed, etc., then you should have a complete circuit, complete wiring. Then obviously check the fuse, make sure it's good. Then what I'll do is screw all the actuators back on, connect them back up to these rods, which they obviously don't push down unless you close your door. So that's basically your door being closed. Then this will move up and down. Just don't slam your door closed without opening these, or you can damage them. Alright, so I'm going to screw my actuators back on, tidy up these wires, and see where we go from there. Okay, so I'm going to refit the 3-pin actuator on the sliding door. For this one, it's a good idea to plug it in first, because the plug sits behind that piece of metal there. Make sure it's well clipped in. Push the rod up the back. Make sure this is turned so it's facing, there's a little notch in it. You want it to face down the way. It's a bit awkward there. Make sure it's well clipped in. Then 2 screws back in there. These are the screws it uses. So I'm just going to line them up, screw them in, and then move to one of the front doors. Okay, this is front driver's door. So the plug is always face back towards the hinge. So if you look in here, the rod for the pin, the hook faces inwards, so you just want to make sure your plug is facing towards the hinge, and then reach in there. Try and do this with one hand. So hooked it on. So you see that's hanging down there. 2 screws again. I'll just line them up, screw it on. Okay, this is the last one. It is the tailgate. So if you look in there, there's a hole past that rod through there. And then Pretty sure it's that one. Yeah. Clip it in, screw it on to those two holes, or those two holes. Just like the other three, 2 screws. Okay, tailgate, just a quick check. And the tailgate's closed. That's how that will look. Check that when you pull your handle, it opens. So, close it again. If your locking was working, central locking, your actuator will pull this pin, and then if you go back outside and pull the handle, it won't open because you're locked on. Central locking actuator push that out to open, and then that works. So we know that all works. That was a manual, that was me doing it by hand, so still need to get all the connections done up and then check if that all works. Okay, I've put all my actuators back on and I've finally worked out why my central locking wasn't working, but before I show you how to do that and find out how to fix it, I'm going to continue showing you how to check the signals to the plugs, because we know our actuators work now. So I'll show you what tests to do just to make sure you're getting proper power to all your plugs. Again, this is all new to me. I've learnt this over this last few days in the rain by watching YouTube videos and asking people on Facebook, so I thought I would do a video on what to do. So if you can see, I'll actually unplug this loom, unclip it, bring the camera over here. So you want to put your multimeter onto DC voltage, because DC is for a battery, and go to 20 volts because it's a 12 volt system. So basically what this does between 220 and 200 is it just moves a decimal point. So we're measuring 12 volts, so if we go to 20, it puts the decimal point here. So this is the loom coming to our, just going to zoom out here. This is the loom coming to our driver's door actuator. So what you want to do is, red wire should have 12 volts. So you want to put your multimeter on the live wire, the red wire, and then put it to your chassis ground, which is, I'm using the switch that controls your interior light. So if I test that, you see we got 13 volts. I've got a brand new battery in this, so it's pretty good. So you should have 12 volts coming to this wire and the wire on the passenger side, so just do the same test. Then what you should have is, if you test the yellow wire, one of those should have, yes, so the yellow wire has 13 volts, the white wire should have 0 volts. Yes, 0 volts. So the yellow wire is getting 12 volts until either the lock, it gets a signal to lock or unlock. When it does lock, it will change over and we will be getting 0 volts on the yellow and 13 on the white. So you want to check that. How do I show that? Anyway, you should have 12 volts going to the red wire, 12 volts going to yellow or the white, whenever you lock and unlock the doors, the voltage should switch from yellow to white, so from 0 to 12. So you want to check that on both doors. Then what you want to do is plug these back in. So I've already done the continuous test on all the wires, so if we know all those wires are good, so we know the circuit works, all the wires are not broken and good. So I think it's the bottom one is ground. This will be your 3-pin plug. So one of these should have 12 volts. Yep, so that will be your yellow. The other one should have 0, it's the white. It does have 0. Whenever it gets the signal to lock and unlock, these two will swap over. So this will go to 12 and that will go to 0 whenever it gets a signal from the front doors. Alright, so you want to check that. Then you want to go to the back. So basically you want to do the same thing here on that plug. You should have 12 volts going to, well, in this case it will be the yellow. White will have 0 until I do the locking cycle, and it will swap between the yellow and white. So we've tested the actuators, all the wires have got continuous, they're unbroken wires, they're all good. Then we checked that we're getting 12 volts to the red wires in the front. Then we checked that we're getting 12 volts and 0 volts between the yellow and white, which is the signal wires. So once we do all that, central locking should be working in theory. But what I noticed is, just 5 minutes ago, which I'm pretty happy about, this is the rod going to, that's the rod going to the actuator, which should move up and down with this. What I just noticed earlier was whenever I lift this pin, the rod on the actuator isn't moving, which it should. So what I did was reached in and actually lifted it. And you can see the door pin isn't moving, so there's something broken between the actuator rod and the door pin. If you look over here on the driver's side, when I pull the pin, manually pull the pin, the actuator rod moves. So with all the doors locked, I'm pretty sure the doors are not locked but closed, so all the latches closed. You can have your doors open but close all the latches. So that door's unlocked, latches closed. Latch is closed. If I pull the handle, the door is locked. So door is unlocked, latch is closed. Sliding door is closed. Door is unlocked. Passenger door closed. Unlocked. If I manually lift this rod, all my doors are working. So for the first time in 4 years ownership, 3 years ownership, I've got working central locking. I just need to fix the link between this rod and this pin That's why it isn't working. So I fixed broken wires in the bellows, fixed broken wires over here, done all the tests I just showed you, changed that broken actuator that was all rusted out, and finally I found the last thing, which is this. So I'm going to find out what's broken. I've read that a common break is a little spring. It's like a curled up spring in here, which is probably what it is. So I'm going to take it apart and see if I can fix it. See if I have a spare lock from my spare van. Get that fixed, and then for the first time in 4 years I should have central locking, and then I can put all of this back together again. This was actually complete until 2 days ago, and I was trying to fix the central locking. But I'm going to do that. See how it goes. Okay. I removed the 3 screws that hold the latch or the lock mechanism on. I also removed the handle. I don't know if I needed to do that, but basically open your handle, pulls this, which pulls on this, I think, or one of these. Anyway, when you open your handle, it'll connect. It'll push on this or something. Anyway, this rod is where it goes to your interior handle, and if you pull your interior door handle, it pulls this, which should be hooked on there. So my problem was, this is the door pin, which is attached to that little lever. So that is what locks on and unlocks the door. This is the one that's attached to the actuator. It was doing nothing, which is why the locking wasn't working. So this should, if you can see there, that should be in that hole with one of those little white connectors. Where is it? There. So that should be in there. So if you pull the pin, this lever also goes up and down. So that was disconnected. You can see there, it was just loose. So I need to find one of those little white adapters, whatever they are, and then put all that back together, and then it should all work. Okay, I'm gonna have a look for one. Okay, so I have fixed this. So whenever I push the actuator rod up and down, manual door pin also moves. Whenever I actually took this apart, the plastic thing fell apart in 2 pieces, so I replaced that from that one down there, the second one down, from my spare door. So now everything here works. Just need to put this back in, and then hopefully central locking all works. Okay, when you're getting these door latches in, it's actually pretty awkward. But where you see the rubber channel for the window to run up and down, if you pull it off the track, you'll see there's a notch. See, there's a cutout section in the middle channel. That gives you room to get the latch in. And whenever you get it in, you want to make sure that this white guarding is all tucked up in front of your rubber. So it's a bit awkward, but once you get that in, make sure the plastic's tucked in. Make sure your manual door pin is up through the hole. I'm actually going to take these screws right out. Should allow me to drop it down, get the pin up through the hole, make sure the plastic's in the right space. Get the screws back in, started. Just want to push that channel, rubber channel back in again. Might just test the windows going up and down properly. For anybody that doesn't know and has manual windows, to get these things off, this bit in here, you pull it away from the handle, like push it away, so that's it locked. Push it back and then your handle pulls off. To put it on, just push it on, clip it. A lot of people seem to break them. Push it, pull it off. Just took a visit to what's left of my spare van to get something from spare doors. My Beetle. So just grab these parts and then go back to my van. Okay, I went to the spare parts van because I thought this was bent an odd shape compared to the driver's side, but they're both the same. They've got like a curve instead of a sharp bends like the other side, but that's the way it is. So I've pushed it back in to the locking mechanism, and then it pushes in there, clips on there, so your interior door handle pushes like that. I'll just tighten these screws up, hopefully for the last time. Door handle back in. Two screws. Don't think you can see the top one, but it's pretty simple. Close the door, unlock it, it all works. So, door closed. open, closed, locked, doesn't open, unlock, opens. Just gonna put the actuator back on. I took it off so I could unhook the door linkage. So I'm just going to put that all back on as before and test it all again. There we have it. All 4 doors, central locking. I can hear the boot lid, sliding door. Driver's door's all working. So I had broken wires in the bellow in the driver's door. I had that rusty actuator. And I had this linkage not connected, which meant that this one kept dropping down and tripping the circuit. So it was 3 different things wrong with mine, and I don't even have remote locking, so hopefully the video makes sense. It's probably not all in the right order, but it fixed mine, and I've been struggling for a long time, so all I need to do now is wrap up these looms, put them back in with the bellows, and then put my doors on, hopefully for the last time. Door cards, put the dash back together, and that's one less thing on the list. Thanks for watching. Okay, I've just run the wires through this split conduit stuff and through the bellow in there. I've also took the opportunity to run my speaker wires through. I wasn't going to run speakers in the door, but I've decided I am going to, so speaker wire through its own conduit. Just to split stuff here, and cable tied them together. If you're putting the bellows in, there's a big end, a big hole, no, a big hole and a small hole, so it only goes one way, so just make sure you do it right. I had all this through and then realised I had the bellow wrong, so I had to take it back out through here, flip it over and put it in, so that's all in. Those are all protected, secure, and now I can put my door card on. And then I'll just do the same on the driver's side and anywhere else where I think it would be beneficial. Just before you put the door card back on, you want to make sure that the drain holes, one there and one there, just make sure they're open. I just used the compressor and air to blow out all the crap at the bottom. Make sure the holes are unblocked. These doors are they actually let the water in, so you need somewhere to let it back out. If those holes are blocked, the water will sit in there and rot the bottoms off your doors. So I unblocked those 2 holes, cleaned all that out, and while I was here I cleaned out this track. There should be 2 holes there as well, and I just blew out the rail for the sliding door. So got my speaker wires through, ready to put the door card back on. This is the back of the door card. Sometimes these get water in, probably from holes like this, so I'm just gonna pop a few holes in the bottom, so the water, if it does get in, can come out here and then out through those holes, just so it doesn't sit in there. I might actually put some tape over those as well.